I'm Edie Lush, and I'm especially excited to be inside the Hub Culture studio right now because I have a good friend, Sarah Backhouse, coming in to say hello. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. Delighted to be interviewed by you.
I know, it's so exciting because quite often you're the one doing this.
I am on your side, yes, often, but this will be fun.
So, you are Managing Director, Communications 50 at World 50.
That's correct.
Tell me first of all what that is.
Yes, so World 50 is our parent company, 13 years old. We have over 1,400 executives around the world, and we are organized into functional communities. So we have 25 communities in total. I manage 2 of them, Communications 50 and Sustainability 50. So, for example, if you're a CMO of a big company, you'd be in our Marketing 50 group. If you're a CFO, you'd be in our Finance 50 group. And each of the communities operate under the same premise, which is create environments for executives to learn from each other. And the real philosophy came from the founder of the company, who posited a theory that executives who sought external perspective did better than those that didn't. So that's really the underlying philosophy, and we've built the communities around that.
Network building, the importance of getting
information sharing.
Yours. Yeah.
Exactly, and they're very private communities. There's no vendors, there's no sponsors, so you can have these incredibly authentic conversations where people share not just what's worked, but what hasn't. So it's quite gratifying.
So tell me about some of the trends that you're seeing in the last year. First of all, what's the changing role of corporations in this incredible world in which we're seeing very different divisions between people?
Absolutely. I think that's really been reflected by the topic of conversation amongst the Chief Communication Group, which is the changing nature of the corporation in society. So if you think about it, typically corporations were there to bring income for their shareholders, and really kind of stay out of anything to do with societal issues. Well, no longer is that the case. And I think 2017 was a watershed year for this. So it started with the immigration order back in January, where companies were suddenly asking, what do we think about this? Are we going to come out against it? Are we going to say anything internally, externally? So there's this great debate about how companies were positioning themselves. And you've got the tech companies on the West Coast who were very vocal, to perhaps some more kind of older companies that remained quiet. And then it was just onwards from there. So it was the Paris Climate Accord, it was Charlottesville. A great example of that was Ken Frazier, the CEO of Merck, who in protest left the Manufacturing Jobs Council, which eventually led to its demise. So really unprecedented times in business. And by the looks of things, darker in the continuing debates around Me Too, 2018 is going to be more of the same.
And have you seen this, we'll talk about purpose in a bit, but just associated with that, have you seen within the community a greater acceptance of this idea that actually we need to incorporate these global goals kind of across the way that the company does business, not just in order to achieve, education for all, stop climate change, eradicate poverty, but actually just to make the companies themselves a better place?
I think the SDGs have been really instrumental in creating one platform that companies can benchmark against and align their sustainability initiatives against that. So this is really important to Chief Communications Officers who often have purview into sustainability. And I think that also ties in with the bigger notion around purpose. It's not just millennials who want to work for a company that means something and is doing good in the world.
It's the older people like me.
Exactly, it's the non-millennials like us. But it's also, interestingly, new stakeholders, for example, investors. Larry Fink's annual letter to CEOs that came out just last week was talking about investors basically needing to invest in companies that are doing the right thing, and that companies that don't do that will lose the social license to operate, meaning employees, customers, investors, all these various stakeholders are demanding that companies do the right thing, and that will ultimately lead to longer term profits.
Which is great news, right?
Yes.
Tell me about the changing role of the communication officer that you've seen.
Yeah, this is another fascinating topic. So I think social media has really changed the way that companies inform and interact and have conversations. So gone are the days where it was kind of the one-way broadcast of here's our advertising, here's our message, take it or leave it. Now it's really about authentic conversations with customers, with employees. So that's one piece of it. Social media has made it a two-way conversation, not just a broadcast. The second point would be around fake news, and really there's this whole backlash against it now. It's fascinating this morning at the Edelman Trust Barometer that the public is really demanding more truth. That trust in social media has plummeted, trust in journalists has increased, which is great news.
Yeah, which is great.
Absolutely. But again, I think this is where a communications officer is really key in generating earned media, not paid, having truth-based conversations. And I think that movement towards demanding more truth in our coverage is going to be a trend that's here to stay.
And how does that affect the marketing side as well?
Well, it's a bit of an evolution going on right now. Some companies are choosing to merge the two functions to have kind of a holistic look at both functions. But it is interesting. I think it's still yet to be determined. I think social media is something that permeates both functions. And so both roles are kind of eyeing up who owns what. But I think it'll be an ongoing conversation and one that's not going to go away.
Sarah, thank you very much. What's up next this year?
This year, it's continuing to grow our communities. We've got some great events around the world. I'm off to Unilever next week in London to have a conversation with a senior CCO and CMO, Keith Weed. So just another example of the dual function there. So,
there you go.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you very much for stopping by the Hub Culture Studio. I love saying it. We have a studio now, and I'm Edie Lush.